The votes are in, straight from YouTube community and Twitter, and you chose Muscovy. In this exclusive Europa Universalis 5 gameplay after action report, we'll chart the rise of Muscovy as we forge alliances, wage wars, deal with internal struggles, and strengthen our economy on the road to forming the Tsardom of Russia. Our ultimate goal? Reaching a staggering 10 million pops across the empire. So buckle up, grab your Yushanka, and join us on this epic journey through the ages. Muscovy is a special tag in EU5, being one of the nations with the most flavor on release and starting in a much harder position than they do in EU4, having many events and unique advances unique to Muscovy, with 2 of those unique advances already unlocked, giving us subject income and diplomatic capacity. We will use these unique advances to our advantage, and much of our expansion will be done through subjects rather than direct control in the early game, as we're very limited in how much land we can directly integrate. As a matter of fact, Muscovy starts with 2 provinces integrating at the start of the game. Muscovy starts in 3 international organizations. The first international organization is the Tartar Yoke. Many of the Eastern Slavic nations must pay tribute to the Golden Horde. For now, it's fine, as doing these payments also benefit us by giving us more prestige and diplomats. And we're going to need these diplomats to do our starting plays. When we feel strong enough, we can break free from the Tartar Yoke and end these payments to the Golden Horde, triggering a war directly with them. The second international organization is the Patriarchate of Constantinople. As part of the Orthodox Church, we are under the religious guidance of the Eastern Roman Empire, providing different bonuses through religious laws. Third international organization is the Novgorodian Muscovite Union. These nations are all under the same prince, Prince Ivan Rurikovic, who rules from Novgorod. However, when Prince Ivan dies, the Republic of Novgorod will elect a new ruler, likely leaving this union. As part of my first diplomatic play, we improved relations with Novgorod and curried favors with them. We'll use those later on. We also did the same with Smolensk and Ryazan. Our starting economy is very weak as Muscovy. We looked for some favorable trades to help with this, but really the best way for us to improve our economy is by expanding. We granted our boyars and commoners estates privileges to increase quality and quantity of our levies, the units we used to fight in the early game before getting full professional armies. Our first Duma was called, and I used it to get claims on our neighbor Dimitrov, easily defeating them and their allies, subjugating all of them through war. We then used those favors we've been collecting to invite settlers to Moskva from our neighboring countries. This is a diplomatic way to bring in new pops to provinces of our choice. I use this diplomatic action quite often in the early game to increase our population. In January 1342, we entered the Age of Renaissance, giving us the option to choose between different advanced choices depending on our focus. While the military focus gives levy size and levy combat ability, which would help us in our wars, we plan to be a big and wide empire, so I saw more value in the proximity cost advance and the 5% nationwide literacy. In March 1342, Novgorod asked to be our ally. We chose to accept to give us a strong defensive ally while expanding into our neighbors. In our current economic situation, we needed cheap ways to increase our income and tax base, so I decided to expand some of my RGOs. However, we did not really have the best resources in our territory. I chose to expand wheat since at least our people won't starve and we can keep selling grain to other markets. Although the first institution professional army spawned, it spawned all the way in Paris, meaning it will be a while before it comes to us. For now, we can go into other advances such as the Land of Rus, a unique advance to our culture group. With our second Duma now in session, it was time to use it to get a CB on Suzdal, who had one ally that would join the war. We called our levies, but this war was in the winter, meaning that we would face some attrition. But once again, we quickly defeated our enemies, taking some land and subjugating the rest. Afterwards, we completed our first mission tree, an efficient cabinet, giving us some bonuses to our nation. For our next mission tree, we will choose the infrastructure effort missions to increase our control and push us towards the centralization value. In February 1346, the Black Death started, spawning in the Golden Horde, our close neighbor. It was not long before it had spread to our nation. We had lost money due to an event, and were not even in the economic position to build one hospital. We chose to isolate the country and segregate the sick. I also wanted to isolate our capital to increase disease resistance, but required more burgher loyalty. I gave them some privileges to do this action. But the best we could do given our position was pray that we didn't lose too many pops. We used the cabinet action recovery effort to help recover from this utter devastation. In June 1349, the Black Death had passed, taking 132k pops in the process. The disease was still on our border, so we reopened Muscovy, but kept our nation in isolation for now. But this disaster was not just within our borders. Our neighbors also suffered heavily, so with the next Duma session, we prepared for war, making a CB on Khrushchev and their allies. This war we saw the effect of the Black Death firsthand, with our levies decreasing by a full 1,000 troops. We sieged Khrushchev's ally Tver and faced our first fort, meaning this war was a bit longer than the others. Nonetheless, we still won, gaining a vassal in Tver and gaining one location and one province. It was also in this war that we started our first diplomatic annexation, the first of many. This war saw our biggest expansion yet, meaning we took a fair bit of antagonism, kicking us out of the Patriarchate of Constantinople. But that's fine because we made an even cooler Patriarchate in Muscovy. We built the Kremlin through an event in 1352, taking some debt in the process and accepting our first foreign culture. In 1354, a huge smallpox epidemic broke out in our nation, killing another 50k pops. We repopulated our rural locations with the settlement building. This building gives 1% pop growth in locations under 5% population capacity. In 1357, we introduced paper usage in our administration and began the next part of our economic plan. We did not have that much money, but what we could do was reduce the cost of building buildings by decreasing the cost of the goods needed to build those buildings, such as lumber and masonry. In 1359, our antagonism reduced enough to prepare for war, this time on Ryazan. Our levies were called, and we defeated Ryazan in multiple battles. From this war, we made Vyataka a vassal and took 2 provinces from Ryazan. I integrated one of those provinces and made a fiefdom in the other. Novgorod had left our union, making us the leader, but it would be a while before I could annex the other members. July 1361, we got an event to build a grand cathedral in our capital. Too bad I didn't have enough marble stockpiled in my market to even build the cathedral. We fixed this problem with trade. In October 1361, we got the Prikazi event, which gave us a new government reform that gives efficiency in our cabinet and centralization progress, 2 things that will help us out greatly. So we spent 20 stability to replace one of our existing government reforms. But this was not only the time for grand cathedrals and government reforms, we needed to keep the expansion going, this time declaring on Yaroslav. This war put us against them and their ally Beluzero, 2 powers much weaker than us, especially with our vassal swarm that we have made. After piecing out Beluzero to become our fiefdom, Novgorod joined the war on the side of Yaroslav, ending our year's alliance. This war was against our strongest opponent so far, and with it, multiple forts to siege. Luckily, we had a general with 99 administrative ability, which gave us 9.9 siege ability in the army he's assigned to. In the end, victory was ours, taking a province and a location from Novgorod and making Yaroslav our fiefdom. In 1368, I wanted to build our first library in our nation, however I lacked books on our market. We fixed this problem by building scriptoriums, the only building that produces books until the printing press. In 1369, we faced our first rebellion when our boyars rebelled against us, causing a small civil war. We crushed the civil war with ease. In our next Duma session, we got the option to promote urbanization, creating a town in one of our locations. This would increase our number of urban locations from 2 to 3, massively helping our short-term economic buildup. The new scriptoriums we built caused a new deficit of goods in dyes, so we had to make a couple dye-making guilds. At this point, I also wanted to increase our control. The best way to do that right now was to build more roads, which we had not that many of. In 1373, we accepted 2 new foreign cultures, Ryazanian and Novgorodian. In 1378, we built our first manpower-producing building, the Sergeantry, a building that can only be present in the capital. I also now had enough books to build our first library. I could now pass our first religious law in our patriarchate, and I chose to enact dual nature, giving us monthly stability growth. In 1380, it was time to expand once again, this time into Smolensk. With the power of our vassal swarm, we defeated them, forcing their ally Khrushchev to become our fiefdom and taking 1 province from Smolensk. Back to our union, the other members refused to appoint seniority to me, meaning we could not annex them directly. However, we do have other diplomatic options to vassalize smaller members in the union, which we did to Kostroma. But now with all the fiefdoms and vassals we had, we were running out of diplomatic capacity. Being a part of the Tartar Yoke was taking 1 diplomatic capacity, so it was now time to break free. So in 1392, we clicked the button, starting a war with the Golden Horde. Even though the Golden Horde was in a much weaker state, the Timurids were allied to them, which was scary considering they had a large standing army. In order to win this war, we had to keep our levies and vassal troops close together, isolating armies of the Golden Horde and Timurids. But not every battle was won, and with each soldier killed, a pop was lost. But even when the Timurids pushed our vassals, the winter was our friend, causing massive attrition. And eventually we got the upper hand, piecing out the Golden Horde to release us from the Tartar Yoke, taking one province and freeing all Muscovite slaves in their lands. With this peace deal, we broke the 1 million pop mark, stronger than ever before. Back to our economic buildup, we needed more libraries, which meant more scriptorums, which meant more papermaker guilds and more die maker guilds. At this point, we had gotten our centralization value to just under 40, helping us with control. For our next war, we created a CB on Perm, an isolated nation to our east. Another easy war due to our vassal swarm, making Perm our subject, increasing the swarm by 1. More importantly, this new Perm vassal means we can start colonizing the east, starting with the province with gold, a resource we desperately needed. We created more towns and annexed more subjects. We built more roads and completed some missions. We built granaries and increased our food production to increase our pop growth. We even popped a unique event that helped us even further with control, giving monthly control. But we still had one major problem. In May 1414, we ran out of advances and needed the next institutions. The only way we could increase this institution growth right now was to either ally nations that have the institution embraced, which we could not manage to do, or import goods from market centers where the institutions are present, which we were doing, but even then, it was a slow process. This was going to cause us to waste precious research time and cause us to fall behind in technology. So we conquered more land. But seriously, the wars against Novgorod, Ryazan, and Chernigiv gave us a fair bit of money. Money that we can use to upgrade rural locations around our market center of Moskva into towns. Then build libraries in those towns so when the institution does appear in our market center, it will spread outward faster. We can also increase this process by building more roads, allowing us to embrace the institution. This is also around the time that we established seniority in our union. With every policy enacted, we got closer to annexing our junior partner, Vladimir, who was quite large at this point. In 1423, we enacted our second policy in our patriarchate, choosing low Christology for higher clergy state equilibrium. In 1433, the opportunity arose to strike a now very weak and isolated Golden Horde, allowing us to expand even further. We did not want to own this new land directly, as that will make embracing the institutions even harder, so we released more fiefdoms. It was 1436 and we still had no Age of Renaissance institutions, but we still continued with our towns and libraries strategy. In January 1437, the Age of Discovery began, once again choosing administrative focus for the efficiency of cabinet and speed of integration advances. Now finally in 1440, we got banking and professional armies present in our market center, meaning it will finally spread in the Moskva market. Back at our junior union member, we began the annexation process, which will take about 41 years. Age of Discovery means cheaper colonies, so we started a second colony in the east. Winters and summers passed as we waited for the institution. Finally, in February 1461, we were able to embrace the Age of Renaissance institution, banking. Not really the first institution I wanted, but it's better than no institution. We queued up to the bureaucracy advance and waited for more. In 1461, we embraced professional armies. We still were not done researching up to the bureaucracy advance, but each institution embraced gives 5% research speed and allows us to queue up the armory advance, which is the first manpower building we can mass build. Unlocking the bureaucracy advance, we get access to the Namstnik office, a law unique to Muscovy, giving proximity costs, which is great since we just got 100 centralization value. Stacking proximity cost reductions will be vital for the vast empire we plan to build. In February 1464, we embraced Renaissance. With all the Age of Renaissance institutions taken, and being close to finishing our integrations, it was time to start expanding again into Ryazan and Novgorod. Our levies being bigger than ever, we made quick work of the Novgorodian army. The water in the Insi Cape froze over, and that means I can walk over it, but I accidentally left a stack there who ended up in the bottom of the ocean. Pain is truly salvation. From this war, I fully annexed Ryazan and took 3 provinces from Novgorod, weakening our former ally turned rival. In 1467, I unlocked the armory advance, building as many armories as possible with the money I saved up. In 1470, I unlocked another government reform, taking Sudebnik, adding another proximity cost reduction. It was also this time we finished our first colonial charter in the east, and immediately started another one. In 1471, we unlocked a 3rd cabinet seat, increasing our integration process. Our economic strategies began to pay off, reaching over 130 ducat income and huge increase in tax base. In 1472, we unlocked our 3rd religious law and our patriarchate. With the colonies in the east completing, we now have the issue of exporting the goods from our colonies in the east to our home market. Since these are all rural locations, we built market villages to do this. Building in this region is going to take longer than normal due to the severe winters. In 1475, Lithuania had started to expand into Novgorod. We took the opportunity to declare war on Novgorod and take land for our own. This war gave us access to our first port. In 1478, we got news that Lithuania attempted to install a ruler on our throne, giving us a CB against them. Even though Lithuania was no longer allied to Poland, they were still a formidable foe. But we had the numbers advantage, so we eventually overwhelmed them. This war was neither free nor easy, costing us the lives of 40,000 pops. We peaced out for 2 provinces, getting us closer to that Russia formable. Afterwards, we continued our economic buildup, upgrading another rural location to a town and increasing our tax base by building the most profitable buildings. Unlike the Age of Renaissance, the Age of Discovery institutions were spreading quickly in our territory. We increased this further by researching universities, a building that will increase institution spread even faster. In 1489, we unlocked another religious law in our patriarchate, choosing reject the tenet of person for more innovative value progress. We also did another war on Novgorod, annexing more land. In 1491, we got a unique event to encourage Tartar migration around the steppes to migrate to Muscovy. This is already our highest pop location by far, but the more pops, the better. In 1495, we unlocked another religious law. In 1500, we annexed our junior union member, Vladimir, gaining a huge amount of land, a big increase in base tax, and a much needed boost in income. In 1502, we got the Birth of a City event promoting Nizhny Novgorod to a city, marking the 3rd city location in our vast nation. Going to the population map mode, we can see the 3 centers of our nation. In 1506, we passed our last religious law in our patriarchate, arguably the strongest one, taking the double Sabbath, giving global population growth. In 1507, we embraced the Pike and Shaw institution, unlocking new troops, a new manpower building, and another cabinet slot. We also reached the point where Russian was a stronger language than Church Slavonic, so we changed our liturgical language to increase research speed. And just a year later, we unlocked the printing press institution. And now we don't need religious influence to take new religious laws, we can spend it calling an Orthodox synod. We use this synod to revisit our cabinet proceedings and gain some flat research progress. We casually fully annexed Novgorod, and now our integration map mode looks like this. But now that Novgorod is fully annexed, we have gained a small monopoly on the fur trade, benefiting monetarily from it. In 1519, we unlocked the training fields building, allowing us to muster manpower from our many rural locations. In 1522, we embraced the New World Institution, giving us all institutions available. In 1522, we destroyed the Golden Horde once again, nearly fully annexing them. We released a couple new fiefdoms, and we finally formed the Tsardom of Russia. But we're not done just yet. We had more roads to build, paved roads, and another bubonic plague outbreak to experience, this time actually killing more than the first time. In 1537, it was the Age of Reformation. You might be thinking I'm going to go for the administrative focus, but actually, we chose the military focus for more culture capacity. We started exploring further and further east, colonizing new lands. In 1542, we declared a no-CB war on Pskov and fully annexed them. In 1545, we declared war on Astrakhan and almost fully annexed them. In 1547, a great fire devastated Moskva, killing over 50,000 Pops. In 1554, we unlocked another government reform, this time taking two unique ones, Oprichnina, reducing our nobles' power, and Tsardom, reducing our proximity costs further. At this point, proximity in this vast amount of land is everything. With bridges and roads, we are slowly increasing our grip on our locations. In 1555, we got an event giving us claims on the entire Baltics region. We used these claims to declare war on Lithuania once again. Our armies now only consisting of professional troops, it was time to bring in more firepower with cannons. But I quickly realized that I did not have enough tin in the Moskva market to make cannon regiments. We quickly fixed that with trade. Outgunned and outmatched, Lithuania quickly crumbled under our cannon fire. So much so, the Teutonic Order declared war on them. But as the great Tsardom of Russia, I cannot allow such behavior. So we declared war on the Teutonic Order while still fighting Lithuania. Making quick work of both, I turned my attention east to deal with the Timurids. At first, we underestimated them. But that was a mistake I swore I'd never make again. In 1564, we pushed back the Timurid horde to the steppes in which they came from. Still hungry for more war, we declared war on Circassia and Georgia. Even with comets in our sky, we won battle after battle, sending back damaged and attritioned armies while pushing with fresh troops. But in my hubris, I made a mistake. I embraced the artillery institution, costing us a huge chunk of stability. In the Age of Reformation or after, Muscovy or Russia can trigger the times of trouble disaster if they fall below 25 stability or 60 legitimacy. And I just did that. I ramped up my stability investment to max and prayed, but alas, the disaster fired. I pieced out Georgia and Circassia for as much as I could and braced for impact. The effects of the disaster reduced food production and all estate loyalty, severely destroying my economy. Maybe that comet was a sign after all. To get out of this disaster, we need to either experience it for 15 years or have my stability over 44. So I kept my stability at max investment despite the cost, taking multiple loans in the process. We faced rebellions. Our oldest son was assassinated and experienced famine. We used the Orthodox Synod to gain more stability. And faster than I expected, our tenacity shined through, only taking 9k debt in the process. After annexing more subjects, we reached 10 million Pops in 1590. And despite being a massive nation with 10 million Pops, we still aren't even in the top 10 great powers. The video ends here, but the story does not. This was our Muscovy After Action report on the official Europa Universalis YouTube channel. Comment below which nation you're excited to play when EU5 comes out on November 4th. Thank you so much for watching.